I would like to welcome everyone to our February Ask the Trainer. Today we are going to be taking a look at role-based applications in our Maximo system. So my name is Ann Antonelli. I also have Gwen Colbeth on the line. We are TTC, Technology Training and Consulting. Many of you have worked with us in the past, and I have a feeling each month we will be bringing more and more people in who we have worked with in the past. I took 4 years off of my personal business and actually worked for the Bureau of Reclamation for 4 years, but I am now completely back and running TTC along with Gwen Colbeth, and we are offering our free Ask the Trainers to kind of introduce people to a lot of the new changes between Maximo 7.6 and the new Maximo Application Suite versions. So our agenda today, like I mentioned, is all about role-based applications. We are also going to talk just briefly about the difference between Maximo and Mass. I'll probably keep that on our agenda for every month for the foreseeable future, just because there's a lot of people that have not upgraded yet. And that's what we're hoping to do, is help you out, give you a preview of kind of where things are going. We're going to do a deep dive specifically into the work orders role-based application. It is not the only one, but it is the only one that I've gone down the rabbit hole and figured out most of the things on it. We'll probably be doing another Ask the Trainer on role-based applications on the inventory side down the road. And then I mentioned this in our today's agenda. I don't know if we'll have a chance to talk about it today, but I got a question after the last Ask the Trainer about meter-based and time-based PMs. And I actually got the question from one of the people that attended the Ask the Trainer, but then I also got the question from another client we're working with. So I have been doing a bunch of testing, and I don't have all the information, although I have a lot of lessons learned from the first day of testing. So if we have time to mention that, we will. If not, since our first 5 or 6 months of Ask the Trainers are pretty planned out, I will actually do probably a special recording and put it up on the YouTube channel about the whole topic of trying to have meter-based and time-based PMs where they're running both at the same time. So we'll see how we go with time today, and if we get to talk about that a little bit towards the end. So for those of you that are still on Maximo 7.6, or I actually have one former client that we know that's still on Maximo 7.5. For those of you still in the Maximo 7 realm, Maximo itself is all of our traditional applications, locations, assets, job plans, PMs, inventory, procurement, all of those things. At that version, we had to purchase add-ons. If we wanted to use the IBM scheduler, we had to purchase it as a separate add-on with separate licensing. Same with Maximo Mobile, separate add-on, separate licensing. Transportation was an add-on that you installed. You know, all of these things had all these separate licensing. As of Mass 8, Maximo Application Suite is what we refer to as, you'll hear it called Mass or MAS, depending on where in the world you are. Mass 8 and now Mass 9 is what's referred to as our Maximo Application Suite. Our traditional Maximo applications that we've always used are the manage portion of the suite, and the manage portion of the suite includes Maximo Mobile and Maximo Scheduler, along with a whole bunch of new scheduling applications as well. All of these applications use a single licensing platform. So when you install it, if I just pull my screen over here for just a second, and I'll show you what it looks like when I install it. When you install Maximo Application Suite, you actually install the suite of all of the applications. Okay. Now, Manage is the only one that I have turned on and configured, but Monitor, Health, Predict, Real Estate, If I go to some of these industry solutions for aviation, transportation, civil engineering, all of these things are all part of our Suite Navigator and our Maximo Applications Suite of software. And literally now what we do is we have the ability to configure those and add those for our users to be able to use. Now, I gave this little link out last month as well for the Maximo Application Suite introduction class. They redid it in 2024. There's not a newer version quite yet other than the 2024 one, but 2024 is Mass 9 versus Mass 8. It is a free 6-hour class out on IBM. It's all e-learning, so you can do it as you go, but it really introduces you to what all of these different add-ons and industry solutions and things like that are. I had so many people ask for this information last month. I'm just going to throw this page over here for just a quick second. This month, I was smart and I created a document, and I will be sending this document to all of you after the Ask the Trainer so that you have all the dates and all the links and everything that I've provided in the session. So I'm getting smarter every month. I'm kind of updating everything and getting all of this going for everyone. So this link for this IBM class is on that document, and you will get your own copy of that document at the end of this session today. So let's talk a little bit about what these role-based applications are. They started introducing role-based applications actually back in Maximo 7.5 and 7.6 when they introduced work centers and the inspection forms. The work centers and the inspection forms applications were the beginning of this new graphite technology that is being programmed for IBM Maximo and Maximo Application Suite. I can't tell you back end, what programming languages the graphite technologies are, but the goal of these role-based applications is they work the same whether you're on a desktop or laptop computer or you're on a mobile device. And many of these applications actually work in offline mode as well as online mode. Not all of them work that way. The work orders application that we're going to go into today is meant to be online at all times, but I will poke in and show you a couple of different applications that work offline as well as online. And you can you'll be able to see the difference. They visually look different than what we've seen in the past. One of the things that we have a little desk guide that we can send you if you need it is these role-based applications have a different setup in your security groups. It's not just, find the application and give you rights and give you signature options. You actually have to apply a template and give people access to specific object structures. So the step-by-step on how to give access to role-based applications is slightly different than it is for our traditional Maximo applications. So we do have a desk guide of that, and I am going to show a little bit of that at the very beginning of our demo today as well. So let me go ahead and just bring my Maximo screen back over here. If you do have some questions today, you could take yourself off mute and ask the question, but you can also throw the questions into the chat, and Gwen will be watching the chat for me. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is how these role-based applications get added to our actual security groups. And as an administrator, in addition to having access to our manage applications, we also have access to the actual MAS applications, Maximo Application Suite. For those of you admins on, and we have a request for some system admin ask the trainers. One thing I will tell you is registering users is completely different between Maximo 7.6 and MAS 8 and 9. But security groups other than role-based applications are basically the same. So I'm actually going to go into the manage security groups. And our environment, again, is an out-of-the-box. We loaded the default database from way back when MRO owned it, all of that. But I want to show you, let me see if I can find just a few role-based security groups. I think I'm going to go over to our next page here. Let me close our little AI assistant for a minute. Okay, so you'll see security groups like maintenance crew, maintenance supervisor, inspector supervisor, inspector group. Some organizations create role-based security groups. They have security groups for maintenance supervisors, fleet supervisors, inventory managers. That's what's known as role-based. Now, the role-based applications are built based on what those roles do. Smaller organizations or smaller facilities at large organizations, they actually sometimes have individual people who have multiple roles. You might be the maintenance supervisor, but because your plant is so small, you may also be your maintenance planner. And you might be the lead on all of the different types of maintenance, things like that. So the concept of role-based applications is that you'll have these security groups based on the roles. I'm actually going to go into one of our security groups, this maintenance crew security group, and I'm going to show you how to apply the work orders role-based application to this security group. So like we would normally, we would go into our applications because it is an application. It is the work orders application. I'm just going to type it in. It does end with an S. It is not to be confused with work order tracking. It is a separate application. And you'll notice that it says tools and tasks, but it still saves everything in our work order table. So I'm just going to clear this for a second. And I'm going to type in the work order table here for just a moment. There are a lot of applications, work orders, work order tracking, quick reporting. They all create work orders into this work order table. There's even support for the older technologies, Every Place, which was before or after Anywhere, which was before Maximo Mobile. But basically, anything we do in quick reports, anything we do in work order tracking, anything we do in the work orders application are all going to save into that work order table. These other application types say applications. That means they're the traditional Java-based desktop use applications. They don't function very well on mobile. Tools and tasks, that's a new graphite application that works on mobile devices. So this work orders application is the one we want to look at. If we were adding a traditional application, you would come down here and you decide, are they going to be able to just see quick reports and search in them? Are they going to be able to create new ones, edit and save existing ones, and even delete? Those are the basic 4 accesses we grant. And then down below that, we have what we refer to as signature options. Can they change status? Can they bookmark records? Can they approve the work order? Can they assign new parent work orders? Things of that nature. It looks very different when you go into these graphite role-based applications. First and foremost, you see read access to work order summary. That's it for granting access. And then as far as signature options, add work orders to the AI training model. One of the new features in the work orders application is actually being able to predict based on the asset and the failure class and the description in the work order what the problem code is. If you turn it on, if you turn on this signature option to add work orders to your AI training model, you can start gathering that information to predict problem codes. So when we add these role-based applications, we start up with grant listed applications. I want to grant read, insert, save. I do not actually want delete, but I'm going to do this the lazy way. So I'm going to grant, and actually let me go back into here and type in tools because I don't want to do this with all the applications in the list, just this one. I'm going to grant all of the above because I'm lazy. Then what I do is I go back and I revoke the delete option. Now, why would I revoke the delete option? I don't want regular users being able to try to delete, to be able to see an option to delete records. Most of the time, Maximo won't let you delete records, but we've found some really crazy, weird exceptions. You can delete an active status preventive maintenance record, and that preventive maintenance record may have generated 100 work orders, and you can just delete it out of the system. Annalie, you just asked which version. We are in MAS 9.1. We're not in 9.2 quite yet. So this is 9.1 that we're using. So I did my grant. I did my revoke. That checked this checkbox. It did not check this checkbox down here yet. Okay, that's step one of granting access. Some people already do it this way for their other things, so it may look very familiar. The part that's different is the manage and applying of the template, signature options, and object structure authorizations. I am not going to add modify signature options at this time because I don't want to be prompted for passwords whenever I do status changes. That is something that some organizations want to turn on, but I'm not going to do that today. I am going to apply the template. And it reminds me, first I have to save what I've done so far. Now I can apply the template. Almost all of these graphite-based, role-based applications only have one template. There is one that had two templates. I cannot remember which one it is. And I actually applied both templates because I didn't know what else to do. So I've been kind of playing around with that. But most of them only have one template. And then there is the ability for you as an organization to duplicate this template, make changes to it in a very, very, very limited fashion, and then apply your own template. Like you can add your logo to it and you can add a couple of fields, but that's about it. The templates are pretty much what IBM is working with. So we have this template. It's the only one that we can work with, but we're going to apply it. And it tells us that the authorization, it's applying it for this work center. And it also tells us that there's other things we have to apply, which is our object structures. If you don't apply this template and apply the object structure, and all you did was just give people access, every time they try to do something in the role-based application, they're going to get all these little dialog boxes, system messages that pop up that say they don't have access to this piece of the template or this object structure. So if you've given people access to role-based applications and they're getting those system messages all the time, it's the template and then applying the object structure that is what's going on here. So this object structure, it's actually going to apply all of these. We're going to get access to read. We don't necessarily need insert. Some of them we might need, but these are all set up for us. So we don't have to go through and do them one at a time. Literally all we have to do is click our button here. You can click this blue button, or you can click the white button that turns blue. I don't know why there's two of them. They do the exact same thing, but I click the button. It says, do I want to apply it? I click OK. And then I click OK out of that dialog box. Now this bottom piece is also check marked. My security group is saved. Those are the steps to adding any of your role-based applications into your security groups. You have to actually add the rights in the applications. And then if you're going to do e-signature, electronic signatures, you have to add those. And then you're going to apply your template and apply your object structure authorizations. Once those are all done, then you are free to go into those role-based applications, and you should not receive any error messages. Now, role-based applications are not just under our work orders module. This is where the most of them are, but we also have a set under our inventory module. We have inventory counting that works with the CountBooks app. We have inventory receiving, and we have a new version of the well-known old issues and transfers application. And then also under assets, there is an asset manager application. One thing you're going to see with the MAS versions, Maximal Application Suite versions, as you move into 9.0 or 9.1, or even for new people getting ready to deploy soon, deploying in 9.2 because it's been out for a little while, or future ones, we are going to see more and more of these role-based applications. That is where they're focusing the new features and really focusing the development and the user interface experience and all of that. So that's why I wanted to dive into at least one of them. We'll probably, like I said, dive into other ones, or I'll at least create recordings and put them up on our website, our YouTube. But today we're going to start with work orders. Now, I know last week I did go into the work orders application, and I showed you guys how you can manage your columns, you can change the order of the columns, you can add different columns to them. And that's one of the great things about these role-based applications, is that you finally get to control what your columns are, what your sorts are, all of that. Today, we're going further than that. We're moving past just being able to control our columns and how we see our data, and we're actually going into one of the applications. So everything I'm about to show you in this work orders role-based application is what you need to know for role-based applications if you're going to take the IBM Work Management Associates certification test. So that's, I'm getting ready to do a workshop for that particular certification test. We'll talk about it more when we look at the different conferences. So that's what I plan to demo, is all the things you need to know for that specific test on this role-based application. And this is the only role-based application that's really tested on. So we're going to start out. I'm going to show you that I can filter the exact same way I normally do. So I'm looking for a waiting approval status work order because I'm going to actually add some information to it. I just have to get my little box here to go away there, my menu to go away. So these top fields pretty much sort the same way. I can put information in them. I can use wildcards, all of that. I'm going to choose one of these work orders on a truck, and I'm going to just open this work order. And the work order itself looks very different. So if we're just kind of perusing around our screen here, at the top, we have a kind of a status bar. Some of you may have seen something similar to this with service requests. If you were using service requests in past versions like 7.5 and 7.6, there was a version of service requests that has this little workflow at the top. So this is going to help us know what the status of this work order is. On the left-hand side, what we normally see as tabs at the top of our work order tracking application, some of those tabs, not all of them, but some of them are over here on the left-hand side. You can see from what you have over here, this is really not meant necessarily for you to complete a work order. I can see the summary of the work order. I can see the plans tab and see who's been assigned to it, if there's any tasks, if there's any children work orders. This one's still in waiting approval status, and I'm going to add those things so they're not there yet. If there's any related records to this work order, I can see that. If you're using workflow and there's workflow assignment, I can see that. If there are already logs, whether they're work logs or communication logs, I can see it. This application, again, being a role-based application, it can be used on your desktop, but it looks the same way and functions the same way as if you were to bring it up. Oops, let me do this. See if I can get this without Windows taking control. If I were to bring it up on an iPad. So this is kind of what it would look like on an iPad. And it's supposed to really function as closely as it can to be similar. Now, there's certain pieces where you can do things like there is a parent work order for this one. So if I wanted to jump right over and see the parent, I can click on it and it jumps me over to the parent. Notice it jumps me into work order tracking. And then I have to use my breadcrumb in the upper left-hand corner to come back to this work orders application. So it kind of mixes the two. If my job is to go into these work orders and take a look at them and assign owners to them, assign the person who's going to take care of making sure that work is completed. That might be a foreman or a lead or a supervisor. That might be the actual technician. This is different than assigning the work. But if I wanted to get ownership and add owners, I can click on this. One thing to notice, and actually let me cancel here for a minute. When I'm in this work order right now and I'm looking at things, I'm actually in read mode of this work order. I am not edit mode of this work order. I would have to use this edit button to put the entire work order into edit mode. And then it looks quite different. The reason this is important to be able to see this summary level is I can be looking at this work order and getting information from it while someone else is in work order tracking, or even in this application, editing the record. And we're not going to crash because we both had it in edit mode at the same time. Now, we have not done a full test on all of these pieces, but when I do things like select an owner, based on what I'm seeing, when I select an owner here and I go in and I click on my magnifying glass and I look at my name, the record itself never goes into edit mode, just the single field does. So if someone were doing something other than choosing ownership, they would also be able to affect changes to that work order. We have not done a full test on it, but that's what they're looking at trying to have happen here, is really figure out how we can have multiple people working on a work order at the same time by only opening up certain parts of it. If I needed to add some tasks, maybe I come in here and there are no tasks on this work order, and I just want to document the tasks that I do. Well, I'm not sure how deep people have of an understanding of how tasks work, but when you create a task, you're actually creating a brand new work order record, and you're linking it as an activity record type to your work order. So I can create a task and link it to this work order and actually not be editing the work order until I save that task. So being on my plans tab, being on that tasks piece, I can click on task. It does look different than our traditional task looks like, but here's our asset, here's our description, here's our long description. This piece is the long description of the task. I'm going to say step 1 is our safety meeting and PPE. And then I have to move this little guy because he's always in my way, which opens up a dialog box, but there's my save button at the bottom. And again, all of our buttons, everything is big and chunky because And you can see empty white space over here because if I were to shrink this down to my iPad, now it looks different. And on the iPad, it would actually stretch across the whole screen because it would understand that that's what it was supposed to be doing. Then I can close this work order, and now I'm back on the regular work order. So there are a lot of things that you can do while you're in this work orders application. I can add tasks. I can assign someone to the work order. I can define the craft of the people that need to work on that work order. I can pull children work orders underneath here if that was something I needed to do. I can relate records, so I can create follow-up work orders from this particular work order. Mine's still in waiting approval status, so I'm not going to do that quite yet. I can add both work logs and communication logs. Remember, communication logs are emails. You will create the email and save it to your work order. Your Maximo server sends that email out, and you now have a copy of it tied directly to the work order to know that it was sent to that person or to that group, depending on how you're doing it. In addition to all of these options over on our left-hand side, we also have this actions button at the top. This is where we can add this work order and many of the work orders to our AI model. Remember, with the AI model, what the work orders are looking for to be able to predict what the problem code is it's looking at specifically the asset location, and then it is looking at our description of our work order. The keywords in the description of the work order is the other piece of information it's looking at. And those keywords are going to help drive what the problem codes are. So this allows us to add these work orders. All we're doing is adding that reference information in. Here's where we can create follow-up work orders. So if I needed to create a follow-up to this particular work order, it tells me at the top that it's a follow-up, but it does just copy the description, any long description, work type, priority if I had it set, asset, location, pretty much the same as it does in work order tracking. So if I say that this is a follow-up work for truck 1008, it needs new back brakes. So again, it's telling me up here that it's creating a follow-up work order, but my description, most organizations like to go in and put that follow-up information in there as well. Usually our follow-ups to our PM work orders are not PM. We usually do like a CM work order. Sometimes it might be an emergency. And then if this is something that the brakes are really going bad, I could even add my failure class if my assets and locations have the failure class. If that had been in the previous work order, it would have copied over. I can do my estimated duration. I can even tag in my job plans and any inspection forms I need to. And then I save that record. Now, when I save it, it brings me back to my original work order that I opened. But remember, I can go to related records, and that's where I can see that follow-up, just like I do in work order tracking. There is also a button here that just says create work order. Create work order literally does that. Maybe I don't need to create a follow-up to this particular work order. Maybe I just need to create a new work order for a new truck that just came into the fleet garage. This creates a work order separate from that, related to it in no way at all. If I have workflow already programmed within my organization, I have in the actions button the ability to start the workflow, and then whatever workflow dialog box you're used to having come up in work order tracking would come up. We don't have workflow turned on for any of our applications right now. so I can't really demonstrate it, but usually it brings a dialog box up and it says, okay, what do you want to happen next? Do you want it to be approved by this group, or do you want it to move to this next group for scheduling? And you would choose whatever the appropriate action is. I can also change status from here, select owner from here, just like I selected owner in that field a little bit earlier. And then the other thing I can do is view source. I am going to change the status, but I want to show you what view source is. So let me get rid of my little black side menu here. Notice one thing I can't do in here is I can't really add labor. I can't take down a meter reading for the odometer of the truck or anything like that. There's not really a way of doing actuals here. That's what this view source record is for. View source record takes your same work order, 1050, and it opens it in the fully functional work order tracking. Now in work order tracking, I could enter my meter readings. I can report downtime. I can do whatever I normally do in work order tracking, including going to my actuals tab and adding my labor and things like that. So there are limits to what we can do in the role-based application of work orders, but those limits can kind of be overcome by doing that source record. So I am going to change status on the record. I'm going to move it to an approved status. Notice you'll see all of the same statuses that you normally use. If you have custom statuses, synonyms of other ones, you'll see those as well. When I change the status, it tells me the status was changed. It doesn't move across this top part. I wanted to make sure you guys saw that because it hasn't refreshed the record. It's not an automatic refresh. I would have to go back in to my work order list. And now I can't find it in my list here because remember, these were for waiting approval. So I'm going to get rid of my status. And I remember it was 1050. 1050 is now in the approved status. Now I see that it's in the approved status. If there were parts needed, then it would hop back to waiting materials, but we don't have any parts, so that's why there's the check mark there. Okay, so I'm just going to stay in this record for a few minutes. This is really everything that I've found that you can do in here. You know, the actions menu has some different options. You have your options here. Do you guys have any questions about what you can do in this work orders application? And again, you can throw them into chat or you can take yourself off mute. Bob says, when I changed the status and saved, a new work order appeared. Let me see. I'm curious to see if that's when it saved this task, because I saw the number 2006. In our basic task, job details, I don't see. So let me go back in here on work order 1050. Oh, let me close the task. And I am going to, where's my little guy up here? There we go. I wanted to view the source record. I think that's the number for the task, but I'm not 100% sure. So over here, here is our task. And remember, every task you save, even though it says it's task number 10, it's actually a work order. And depending on how your organization numbers it, it's not. It's reference work order number is 1292. So if I'm in work order tracking, And Annalie, you are right. I did create that follow-up work order, but I don't think that. Okay, so here is the task open in a full work order. So it's not the task that did it. So let's come back and we'll go to the related records. That is 1289. Oh, Bob, you are exactly correct. So you're right. What happened is, remember when I was out here, and I'm just going to clear my filter here. I'm still very clumsy in this application, I feel like. So originally I was in all the Whopper status work orders. Well, when I changed the status of my work order 1050, it may have moved to another work order in that Whopper status. Let me see. Yep, here's all of the different records. So it may have moved down the line to another record, because when I came back to the Whopper status, remember, I couldn't see 1050 anymore. Then I had to switch and I deleted that status and I just went in and went straight into record 1050. So what we saw with, I thought it was 2006, but maybe it was a different, slightly different number. What we saw is it maybe moved to that other one. I think it's one of those things that you just have to kind of play around with it. And I would like to play around with it on my iPad as well, because I don't think it'll refresh as often as it does on the computer in the iPad. Any other questions on what we saw here in this work orders role-based application? I'm going to show you just a couple of other. This work orders application is not one that can currently be used online and offline. But under technicians, there's several applications, and I'm just going to jump into the My Schedule for technicians. Now, you're going to see a different look and feel on this one than what we saw on the work orders. So first I come in and it looks for all the work that's been assigned to me. I don't see anything in here. But if I go into work created by me, I've created a few work orders. I should be able to see something in here. And now I'm starting to actually see work orders. Again, if I shrink this size down, this is what it would look like on my iPad. And I can see the different work orders here on my iPad with all these different symbols and everything. One thing that I am not pleased with IBM, notice when I put my mouse over these icons, these are buttons. What do these buttons do? You get to click on it and guess, because there aren't any tooltips on these buttons yet. But what I wanted to show you with this is you'll see that when you go into some of these other role-based applications, you'll see this little waffle button down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And the waffle button brings up this screen. These role-based applications also work with Maxima Mobile, minus this little start center here, the My Schedule, the one I was just on, inventory receiving, inventory counting, inspections, materials and tools, service requests, issues and transfers, approvals. These are the ones that will work offline and refer to that database, or they will work online as well. Robert Larkin, I see you have a question. You have your hand up? And you have yourself on mute right now. So when we're trying to figure out which of these applications work within our role-based online only versus online and offline, it's really about whatever shows up here. Because when you load Maximo Mobile, the application, on your mobile device, and you get it connected to your database, and you get your database downloaded for the first time, whatever of these applications that you'll have access to, this is what the interface looks like for Maximo Mobile. So hopefully that kind of helps you guys understand what's available in the Maximo Mobile versus what's available as just role-based online connected. Work orders, what we looked at today, is definitely online connected. Okay, I'm going to pull up a couple additional slides here. We have just about 10 minutes left here. So again, I created a handout that I'll send to everyone this week. One of the things we like to do in our Ask the Trainers is not only demonstrate some new technologies and answer questions, but we also like to let you guys know what's going on locally around you. So maximogroup.org, this is a URL as well as a nonprofit organization. They offer regional single-day conferences, and they have a few of them coming up. Next week on February 25th, they will be in Dallas. On February 26th, they will be in Houston. March 18th, they will be in Phoenix. Next month, when we get into March, I'll add the other locations for March and April. They will be in Denver in May, and hopefully I'll still be helping with that one. We'll be in Denver and Albuquerque in May. The Maximo Utilities Working Group, that is a big 3-day conference with an optional training day at the end. Again, URL and nonprofit organization. They are in Charlotte, North Carolina this spring, April 7th through the 10th. And on the last day of that conference, they will announce their fall location and dates. Go Maximo. I have this one in yellow because this is one that I will be attending. Go Maximo is gas and oil, but many organizations beyond gas and oil come to this particular one every year. It is April 28th and 29th, 2 full days in Houston. I am going to be teaching a 1-day workshop on work management associate certification. So we'll be going through all of the different things that you need to know to pass this associate certification test and actually get everybody prepared for that test. They're not going to be able to take the test at Go Maximo, but they'll get to do the 1-day workshop and get all the curriculum and everything they need to be able to practice in our training environment and get ready for the test. And then during the conference, I'll probably be answering a lot of questions as well. And then the next one I put on there, I did have Maximo World, but that one's not until August. So the AdMug, the Analytic and Data Maximo User Group, we are doing a virtual conference. There are several members of our AdMug board that are in our Ask the Trainer today, and that is going to be on May 7th, 2026. It's a Thursday, and you'll probably see a lot of information and registration and everything at these Ask the Trainers, but also out on LinkedIn as well. And then finally, again, this is also on our page that I'll be sending to everyone, but just some additional Maximo resources. I've had a couple people email me questions that are more on the system administration or application development side, which I am not super strong on. I am 100% in at the user level more than anything. So if it's not user level, Train Your Way is our website for the classes that we have. Moremaximo.com is a great place to post questions that are more on the technical development or system admin side. Also, if you have an IBM ID, which if you go to that free class and do that free online, you're forced to create an IBM ID. But once you get that IBM ID, you can be part of our Tech Exchange community. And this is another great place. If I have a technical question, I would actually post it in both places. and then put a link to each other within it so that people, if they're looking one place, they can also see information in the other, because you will get different people answering at each of those different places. We do have the Ask the Trainer calendar up now. So the calendar is set up right now through, I think it is through May, and I think we're going to be adding June and July coming up here soon with the topics. And then this is where the YouTube playlist is. You can subscribe to the playlist. If you don't get the recording of the class, then it'll just shoot you an email and let you know. And I did see that there was another question that came up here really quick. My last topic here, or my last line here, is just that next month we're going to be diving into inspection forms. Dinesh, you're saying many of the IBM articles are no longer available. So one of the things that they've done is that the entire help database is now online. It's a website, and it is outsourced. It's not IBMers updating it. Tech Exchange is a great place if you're asking questions about how to support your Maximo 7.5 and 7.6 environment. But IBM is also providing the IBM support for 1 to 3 years for organizations that are there. And that support, yes, you have to pay for it, but it gives you access to put in tickets and work with the IBM technical advisors and also the IBM labs to solve issues. The key thing is for those of you still on Maximo 7.6, IBM will not be putting together any fixes anymore. There will be no fix patches because you're supposed to have moved to Mass 8 or Mass 9 by now. The 3 years of support is more, they can help you with workarounds and things like that, but that's about the extent of it from what I understand. Okay, so I do have 5 minutes left. I'm not going to let you guys go early. I just wanted to mention this whole concept of the time-based and meter-based preventive maintenance records. We will be getting some level of a class or ask the trainer or something about this. But basically what I've started doing on my environment is I've established that you can have both time-based and meter-based turned on at the same time. A lot of people know that. And that if your meters ever stop outputting, your time-based just kicks in and it generates based on your time-based. The questions I'm getting are on the alerts and the lead days. I'm really struggling myself to try to hit those alerts and lead days with meters. They're there, they're available. I have not yet figured out how to get them to alert and come out in the lead time yet, but I'm still working through that. I know that's something that at least one person, if not 2 people on this call at 2 different organizations are wondering about. So I am still working through that. But one of the things I can tell you is I've learned all sorts of lessons learned that I'm tracking on setting these things up. Because when you start putting meter-based and time-based together, one little change can, for instance, I started with an odometer and it was collecting deltas rather than actuals. Well, what's the difference between delta and actuals? Think about your mileage, your odometer on your vehicle. What would you normally capture? How long that trip has been, trip A or trip B between gas tanks, that's a delta. Or your actual, how many miles do I have on the car, which is actual. Well, when I switched from delta to actual so that I could get it going in an understanding that made sense on my brain, it kicked out all my PMs. They generated all the work orders. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I changed the meter or if it's because they hit the time. All I know is they all generated, and then I had to start all over again. I also noticed that I had to remove the meter and put it back in fresh in. So I had to remove it, save the PM, put the meter back in. It wouldn't collect numbers and move once I had changed the back end meter itself. So when I did that, then it unchecked checkboxes. And yeah, so that's what's coming with this whole thing. It's been a really cool adventure to try to figure out and try to outsmart the cron task, so to speak. I actually have the cron task running every 15 minutes on my server right now while I do this. So if you guys have additional questions regarding preventive maintenance records, and especially time-based versus meter-based, I'm shooting for doing the recording prior to waiting for June for our Ask the Trainer. So I'm shooting for probably in the next couple of weeks, finally having this resolved and doing just a recording and putting it out on YouTube and sending everybody the recording. So let me know if you have additional questions you would like included just in general on how preventive maintenance records work with those cron tasks. Okay, so that gives you the information that I'm looking at there. 2 minutes left. Is there any other questions you guys can think of in our last 2 minutes?